Hello and welcome to the Uncle Mike Speaks podcast. How you doing this morning? Yes, my name is Uncle Mike and I'm the convener of this podcast. If this is your first time, you're welcome. So what we do here is I just bring up certain issues and I share my views on these issues, and of course I've never claimed to have all the answers, but all I do is share my views and hope that we all, sort of all learn from it, and that we grow from there. Yes, apologies for this seemingly distractions. Yes, so I actually was supposed to do this last week, but I didn't do it because of the sensitivity around the subject, as it were. It's around the death of Charlie Kirk, right? So the political activist in the US who was assassinated, and of course his death sort of brought about a lot of uproar. So many people, having so much to say. Basically the world, in quote, was divided into two camps. One in support of him, while the other was, of course, against against him. And those in support of him, of course, claimed that he was a Christian, he spoke the truth to power, he was assassinated. While the other camp, was like, this guy was a racist, and it was so evident. And prior to, so the reason why I didn't come up last week was because I did not think I had enough information to draw a conclusion on his person or the things that he did. Yes, I had come across certain content of him, and quite a lot I agreed with. Others I was like, maybe it didn't come out right, so that was that. So I was engaged. There's a group I am in, and the group has quite a number of intellectuals there. So when I gave my views on who I thought Charlie Kirk was and how disgusting a death that he had to die, and to be fair to those who aren't really in support of his kind of person, they did say that nobody deserves to die that way. It was condemnable, the things, and I love that, because there's always context to everything, right? So I love that. But they still say, this person that you are, in quote, supporting, he doesn't like you, he's a horrible person, he hates blacks, he has strong views on some things. So I said, you know what, there's no point doing an episode on this if I don't have viable information on who this person is, because I just have tidbits of some things that he has said in multiple places. And that's the issue with the world today. So on social media, everywhere, you draw conclusion on seeming topics that you don't even have. The least you could have done for yourself is to do a proper research and draw before you draw a conclusion, so that you are doing things not based on bias. And I'm speaking for both camps. So those in support of Charlie Kirk, you find out that some are just saying because, this guy is a self-professed Christian, he speaks the Bible and all that. While the other side, just maybe saw one or two videos, you did not really find out context, in those things, and you just drew that conclusion and you just said, this guy is a horrible person. So I had to go do mine. And again, that's why I didn't have an episode last week. I apologize for that. But if you're just coming here, if this is your first time, please subscribe, share, and like. I think that's how it's done. Subscribe, share, and like, and of course, drop feedback. Let's see if we could learn from each other. So I had done my research, and a lot of the things that Charlie Kirk said and did, they were like paradoxes. So a paradox is something that initially might sound controversial or wrong, but when you think deeply about those things, they begin to make a lot of sense. So, and I'm still on the stance that I agree with 35-40% of the things that Charlie Kirk said. The other 60 not so in agreement. But I believe that one of the issues that Charlie had was probably delivery. delivery. Some like the fact that he is blunt, or he was blunt. Of course, he died on the 10th of September when he was assassinated. And so sad, because a 31-year-old, 2 kids, a wife. I can't imagine the trauma the wife had to go through, going through that, and it must have been so painful. But we're not here to talk about his death. His death is, I think we all can agree that the death is a horrible one, and no one deserves, to go through that. So I think that's settled. So in my research, I sort of did a summary of the things that that he spoke about, his ideologies. So he spoke of societal issues. So under the societal issues, you have the LGBTQ plus rights. Can you imagine those things? The last time I did a proper listen around, or a review or a research on this LGBTQ thing, I thought it ended at Q, but now you have plus. So anyway, LGBTQ plus rights, abortion, and DEI. So the DEI is the diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's like a program in the US. I would explain further when I get there. So it's like a program to ensure that there's diversity recognized, there's equitable reactions either in school, workplace, and all that. And of course, he had his views on these things that, of course, people had. Then of course you have the gun rights. You also have his issues around race, immigration, then Christian nationalism. So this for him was more central about America. So what he thought his nation should, the values they should hold there, and the things that he felt. So anyway, I'm just going to break down the things I agree and the ones I don't agree with. And like I said, don't forget that a lot of the issues, so there are some cases where I agree on a part, and of course I disagree on the other part. So the agreement for me is where the paradox comes into play. So when he says it looks like, what is he saying? Why would you even say that, bro? Why would you say that? But when you sit and think about it, I say, okay, maybe, those kind of things. So there are like two major issues that I had those kinds of stances on. So let me start with the agree first. So I agree with his stance on the LGBTQ rights and plus rights, simply because I don't believe that we should support gender affirmation care, gender reassignment, all those nasty things that, of course, in that part of the world has been legalized, should I put it that way? Lesbianism, gay rights. So I have no issue with the ideology behind the rights. So the idea is, hey, this person is free to be whatsoever. But when it goes against an order, then I have an issue with that. So personally, I am against that. So his stance around that, I totally agree. Nobody should force. You shouldn't force people to learn stuff about LGBTQ in school. That's an anomaly from the beginning. So for me, that's a no-no. To abortion. So you see, the thing about abortion for me is, I agree with him too. Abortion is murder. The first event, there was a seminar I went to years ago, and I heard the testimony of people who had committed abortion and how they felt so bad and all that. And I agreed that it was murder, because life starts at, of course, I don't know how many weeks that Charlie, argued on, but at conception, life has begun. And if you decide to take out that, so again, there's context to everything, right? So one of the issues that most people have, and this is the thing I detest most in the world today, is you bring out one scenario, right, and you use that as context. So probably, and I might be wrong, and I don't want to sound offensive, probably 2 out of 10 cases of abortion is born out of the fact that the lady was raped, and that sample size is too small a number to draw a conclusion and say, let's allow abortion to go free because one lady was raped somewhere. And that's where they actually have issues with Charlie Kirk. So they will say, okay, we agree, it's probably murder, but if somebody was raped, would you tell her? And of course, and that's why I fault Charlie at times, because there are things you have to respond with wisdom. You get that, things you have to respond with wisdom. I'll give it a very popular example, right? The woman that was caught in the act of adultery was brought to Jesus, and it was a test. And this is where Charlie should have known that this is ultimately a test, just to put you off and let you say something that, and I understand both parties. So Jesus looks down right on the floor, and his response was, let he that is without sin cast the first stone. And the Bible recorded that they all left. Apparently, so he didn't come out to say, you know what, this woman, what she did was right. That was not the issue. The issue is you conceptualize things and say, okay, let's contextualize it and see. So a woman who was raped and does an abortion, the issue there and then shouldn't necessarily be, oh, you have murdered somebody, because you have to put context into these things. A couple of them will probably know that his condition that has pushed me to this, and maybe a little bit subtle touch to it could have helped. So when the people left, Jesus now addressed the issue. So in addressing the issue with her, he said, go and sin no more. That's to say that, one, you have sinned, though. Don't think that all this makes what you did better. Go and sin no more. Ensure that you don't do this again. Maybe if we take that approach with the abortion, the people who were raped, and I say again, there is a very small sample size, to say, okay, you have committed abortion, we feel sorry for you. You don't have to have it on your conscience that you're a murderer, because that would be unfair, right? We'll hope next time other people, are properly shielded, from rape. And going forward, people can have an idea that abortion is actually murder. Maybe that may be, and I'm saying maybe because the word is very complex. Maybe that way, a lot of people they begin to warm up to the idea that, okay, maybe this thing is actually bad. Because it's how you throw it that people, oral for oral, like they always say. So, but for me, abortion would always and always be murder. So I'm with him on that. Although delivery for me is a no, and that's where it becomes a bit dicey, but it doesn't change the fact that murder is murder, abortion is murder. So I'm with him on that. DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So he was a huge critic of this, in that some things can appear to be good but can also exacerbate the problem. Let's look at it this way. Does this sound fair and inclusive enough that there's a program that says, of coaches in the US or in an organization, if you want to employ people, ensure that 15% out of your workforce has at least a black, a Latino, or someone of maybe brown color, which is Latinos. It doesn't really solve the problem. What it just does is it creates an avenue for people to know that, probably the reason why we are here is just because we just had to pick you. And that, for me, doesn't solve the problem. True diversity is the process you throw it open, and those who are qualified are brought on board. That's where true diversity and true inclusion comes into play. And I think if you really think about it, that's the real thing, And Charlie Kirk's argument was, and most times people, of course, we'll talk about it when we get to the race issue, right? So the thing about it was that the DEI, his issue around it is, let the blacks and the Latinos come out and prove themselves, right? And once you prove yourself, and again, there's context to this, and Charlie Kirk probably didn't say this enough. He didn't even say it at all. that the system is also rigged in that way. So at times, yes, we want things to be open and be like that. So for the blacks and Latinos, the DEI is probably a one-time win. At least we have got something, because if we throw it open, these people will probably not even, they will just claim that we're not qualified. There and then wouldn't even be considered. But if the law now says do 15%, right, maybe it allows one or two of us to come into the system with the hope that one day it goes back to a system that is inclusive for all. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. So it's probably delivery again with Charlie Kirk. I'm also in agreement with him that the DEI is just, should I say, a stopgap. It's just like a pipe is leaking and you bring a foam, right, and you use it to clog it. It's just a matter of time. Water will still seep through that foam. So it doesn't, if you know what I'm saying, it doesn't solve the issue. It doesn't. It really doesn't. So if we take, if we sit down, and this is a big plus for, and why I sort of like his style again, is that he's willing to have those conversations. Who knows? He's also stubborn, but who knows, if he wasn't killed, he'd probably come to a realization. Maybe somebody would engage him one day, or maybe one day he sees this video and it's like, oh, maybe I should change my delivery. Maybe that would just be it. Because all he's just saying is, a proper system is a system that, everybody comes to prove that they are qualified, irrespective of, whether you're white or you're black or Sharon. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. So that's probably what he was trying to say, because I don't want to preempt him. But that's what I got from what he was saying, that the DEI program might look or sound good, but the perfect thing, and it creates more problem. It doesn't bring inclusion. It just brings that if you have people who are racist in your organization, they will just bring to your attention and say, the only reason why you are here is because we have to, we just have to. It's not like you're qualified for it. And that doesn't do anything good to your conscience as a worker in those places, right? So that's that for that. And this quickly, takes me into race. So and I think this is where I disagree and agree with Charlie. I think Charlie Kirk was he lost a bit of touch with reality. And okay, so let me say where I agree with him on race. So he says we shouldn't be stuck, or black people shouldn't always use slavery as, reason for why we have, in the black community, a lot of fathers are in jail, the crime rate, and he's just stating facts. Crime rate in America, 75% of people who commit crimes are of black or, other race. And he's saying the black people shouldn't always use slavery. So the wrong part in this now is you cannot discount what happened during slavery, So those things, those two truths can coexist. That I like to say, they can coexist. So here on one side is saying we cannot use that as an excuse for why, as a race, you are failing in having, available fathers who don't go to jail, drugs and all that. Not to say that the whites don't commit crime, but if you look at the stats, of course, they are different, But the other side is you cannot say that, oh, because you are saying this, it didn't happen, or you are. So I'm trying to have a balanced view on this. If typical one is, I'm Igbo, the Biafra war in Nigeria happened in the 60s or 70s, and it would be wrong of me to now say, oh, the reason why I am bereft of opportunities is because I am Igbo. There are Igbos who have, gone through that, and they've moved on. Anyone still sitting on Biafra is probably just deceiving himself. However, you cannot also run away from the fact that the Nigerian political space is somewhat unfair to the Igbos. The political space, I'm very careful, is somewhat unfair to the Igbos. But in that same vein, the Igbo politicians have not helped themselves with reputation. and I don't want to make this a political thing, but I can probably pick out one or two politicians from the Igbo, from the Igbo ethnic side, who probably can have a good standing across. But even the little that have been given to the Igbos to even manage their own area, our area, we haven't done well. But it would be wrong for somebody of the Igbo extraction in politics to say, you're not giving us opportunity because you're still holding on to what happened in Biafra. So that's how it is with the black race. So two truths can exist, right? Yes, Biafra or slavery happened, but we cannot solely blame slavery for the ills that are happening in the black community. So I hope I was able to, dissect that. Then I also agree on his issue of immigration. Another two, sorry, I have to exceed 20 minutes today. Another two options again that I have issues with. I have agree and disagree. So his views on immigration is, see, let's be stricter. We can't just be bringing people that would eventually come to replace us. They'll push us out of power. And that's just him being an American. In Nigeria here, you have people who complain that, oh, these Chinese companies, they come here, they don't allow us handle, managerial positions in these companies. We should have I don't know if you get what I'm saying. So his stance on immigration is, let's be stricter. And in reality, for me as a Nigerian, if my country is very, very good, do I really need to run to those places and be claiming to be included in their whatever? I don't know. So I'm actually agreeing with it, because we also need to make our own countries better, so that we can just be vacation sites, or I have a number of friends in the US, UK, Canada, who say if Nigeria were to be a better place, what are they doing there? That place doesn't really suit them, in quotes, but the system there works. So that's that. Then Christian values, I agree with him on Christian values, simply because maybe I'm a little bit of bias, but I agree that Christian values makes the world a better place, truly. And the values that I'm speaking about is loving your neighbor, doing to your neighbor what you would want your neighbor to do back to you. So if you employ love in all areas of our lives, and it's a Christian value, has nothing, I know the Muslims will say they have that, okay, but the value of love anyway. But to him, and you cannot blame him, that's his reality. So to him, Christian values being applied to the American society is what he's fighting for, and I can't disagree with that. So I think I've spoken about race, right? So one of the things I disagree with him is race, I've explained, and the ultimate is the gun rights. It just sounds so ironic that he advocated for gun rights, and this is not to say anyway that the people who have died, or he deserved to die by gun rights because he supported it. That's just a bit unintelligent, if I'm being fair. But the gun laws in America, if there's one reason I detest that place, it's just the gun laws. I don't understand the access to guns, and it's not now, because I think the guns have proliferated the whole place. I just think so. I don't think they'll be able to retrieve all. So his rights, his advocation for gun laws, and using the Second Amendment as a cover, I think gun, those things should be abolished. But that I disagree on him. So I disagree on him with gun rights, race, an aspect of immigration, an aspect of race. I think that's. Then the major thing I disagree with him is on the issues of his delivery. Maybe a little bit of, and it's also a plus for him. Maybe he's a bit so harsh and blunt, but the fact that he's willing to converse, I'm always open. I love people who are willing to share their differences through conversation. The fact that he built his brand on wanting to discuss, to converse, is one that trips me. I just love it. So, hey, I need to close this up. Listen, like, share, subscribe, whichever it is that works for you. But this is my stance. No matter what he did, even if he was the devil, He did not deserve to die the way he died. And a huge shout out to his family. I hope that God, consoles the wife, the children. For the rest of those children's life, when they are old enough, they will always see their father being killed on social media. It will just be it's just a bad taste. It just has this bad taste to it, that they will grow up and they will be exposed to how their dad died in public. It's never nice. It's never nice. It is never nice. So with this, I hope to hear from you guys. I want to know what you guys feel, what you say, and let me know if I said the right things or not. If you agree, if you disagree, no problem. I love conversation, so hit me up, give me feedbacks on those things, and I pray that God helps us all in the end. Thank you very much. God loves you, and have a lovely week. Bye bye.